All right, we are recording now.
Terrific, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Dalel Bader, and I am here along with my friend Mitchell, and we're going to be presenting today in regards to the Pre-Law University Services program at FAU, otherwise known as PLUS. So if any of you feels comfortable doing so, we would love to see you. That would be terrific. And in the meantime, if you have any questions that you'd like to see addressed, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll go ahead and follow up on that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get started. And then if anybody else trickles in, we'll just go ahead and let them in as they come. All right, so if you will, quick moment here. All right. So Mitch, to confirm, can you see the FAU screen?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. So again, everybody, my name is Dalel Bader, and basically what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Pre-Law University Services, our pre-law initiative here at FAU. The learning outcomes for you are that I'd like you to really understand what exactly is the Pre-Law University Services program, what are the pre-law support services and resources at FAU, and you're also going to know how to get involved with pre-law once you get to FAU. And I'd also like to show you some examples of involvement in the form of some pictures and different examples of engagement that we've done in the past, so you can get a little bit of a sense of what it's like. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and answer questions that you may have about pre-law in general and, of course, about FAU specifically. Okay, so we'll get started. So there's a couple of reasons why pre-law is actually a really good idea for students who are new in college. Now, by pre-law, I don't mean a specific major. You could be whatever major you're interested in, but be sort of on the track, be interested in pre-law. Because some common questions for students coming into college are, what can I do right now to prepare for law school and for potentially applying to law school in the future? Students also want to know, for example, what they should major in. Should they double major? Should they do a minor? Are there any particular majors that are more valuable for law school applications than others? What are the pre-law support and events opportunities and resources at FAU? How can you get yourself involved? And more specifically, how can FAU help me, the student, right, to prepare for law school in general? That's one of the reasons why I'm very interested in doing this program with you, so you could learn about these various resources and we can answer some of these common questions. Now, why specifically is the PLUS program so beneficial for those of you who are thinking about law school? Well, to begin, we have a 4-year long program of guidance and student development. It's based on experience in the sense that in developing this program, along with my assistant dean, Mr. Joe Murray, I have experience in legal practice. I practiced for 5 years, did 4 years in criminal, 1 year in civil, in both private and public law. Why is this valuable? Because if you as a student want to talk to somebody about self-assessment, is law right for me? What is the practice like? What would it be like to be a law student in the first year? Would the practice of law suit my personality? These kinds of questions. It's very useful to talk to someone who's been there and who can also talk to you about, for example, the difference between private and public law, the difference between criminal and civil, the difference between transactions and litigation, and so on. So in addition, I bring a lot of experience about law admissions. After practicing in the field of law, I worked in law admissions for about 2.5 years, and therefore have a very good sense of really what it is that law schools are looking for when you are a junior, a senior, and you're thinking about applying. And then lastly, I also have experience in career services. So when I was designing the program, the PLUS program, along with my assistant dean, I actually considered these major questions: how to help students self-assess, which is really that first and second year, how to help them with the admission side of their journey towards law school, how to support them in their process of applying, and how to give them law-related career advice. These considerations are built right into the PLUS program. And of course, another reason why Plus is so valuable if you're pre-law is that we have a lot of really terrific partners and resources that I'm going to be introducing you to. So this is an example of one of the many activities and events that we have. This is one of our pre-law fairs that we do every year. And basically what we have is we have academic and student affairs and extracurricular activities and all of these different groups and partners that get together for tabling all together. So students who are thinking about going to law school can talk about everything from, oh, tell me more about the legal history concentration at FAU. Tell me more about the ethics law and society certificate, for example. Tell me more about business law. They can ask those academic questions, and then they can also look at, for example, the Undergraduate Law Journal, how to get published, how to meet attorneys, how to find a mentor, and so on. So here we have some pictures of one of those activities for you. Now, to give you a little bit of an overview of some of our partners, and also in this way to tell you about some of our resources. So we have the Career Center, and the Career Center does a lot of work and events that really is beneficial for future law students. So for example, they recently, actually this past week, had the yearly Graduate and Professional School Fair, where there's always many, many employers, including a number of law firms, that are interested in undergraduate students who want to do a law-related internship, for example, or a law-related part-time job while they're in college. They also do, well, actually not the Career Center, but rather the Department of Criminal Justice in the Social Work and Criminal Justice College. Every year they have an event called the Jobs in Justice series, where they have everyone from folks who are in law enforcement to folks who are in criminal defense, for example, attorneys, police, victim advocates, public defenders, state attorneys' offices, and folks like that come to campus to talk to students who are thinking not only about the law possibly, but also about law enforcement in general, such as, for example, corrections and so on. And that's another example of a regular ongoing activity. And so is the Road to Law School panel. That's something that's done every year by Phi Alpha Delta, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. So when you look over here, right, the Phi Alpha Delta, or PAD, that's basically, it's an international, for all practical purposes, pre-law society. And FAU has a very active chapter of Phi Alpha Delta. They do a variety of things you're going to be interested in. They do law school visits, courthouse visits, panel discussions with lawyers and judges, socials and networking opportunities. And in the past have also had things like workshops about LSAT prep for students who are a little bit further along in their college career. And then similarly, we also pair with the Undergraduate Law Journal. So you as an FAU student can actually get published in a journal that is peer and faculty reviewed, writing about law-related topics, using Blue Book citation style for your work. It's a wonderful opportunity to build your resume and to see if you actually enjoy legal writing. Part of my goal with the Plus program, again, is to help you with self-assessment, to determine as soon as possible whether or not the law is right for you, and if it is, what steps you could do to prepare for it. Now, on the academic side, what Plus provides is to begin academic advising, right? You want your academic advising to be really parallel to your pre-law advising. You want your questions to be answered with your interest in the law in mind. We have an affinity group for students who are pre-law. I teach an SLS course for students who are pre-law as well, where we learn about different fields of law. We talk about common questions in law. We talk about the LSAT exam and so on. And of course we have educational workshops. Recently, as a matter of fact, I had New York Law School come in Zoom, of course, to talk to our students about law school, about what New York Law School is like, about questions about law admissions. This past semester, I've also had FAMU do the same. And now in early November, I'm going to have the University of Miami School of Law speaking to our students as well. Now, on the academic side, if you're asking yourself, aside from my major, what else can I do academically to prepare for law school? There are a lot of minors and certificates at FAU that you may be really interested in. We have a business law minor that's exceptional, housed in the College of Business, a legal history concentration. Of course, there's public management and leadership studies. We have an ethics law and society certificate as well. Of course, the minors you would expect, like criminal justice and political science and philosophy and all of those things. But I'm professionally particularly proud of the professional and technical writing certificate. If any of you knows a person who's a lawyer, maybe a friend or a family member, and you've talked to them about law school, you may already know that legal writing is very much technical writing. In certain senses, it's almost akin to writing in certain regards for journalism or for public relations. It's very technical writing. And we have a technical and professional writing certificate that's wonderful for people who are thinking about law. So this is just a small introduction to some of the resources that we have available that are both academic and in terms of support and in terms of extracurricular and career development as well. So to give you a very brief introduction to PLUS, as a first and second year student, our priority for you is self-assessment. Again, do you want to go to law school? Is it right for you? We're going to help you to figure out what the practice of law is like, what the differences are among different kinds of law, and how exactly you want to move forward in your college career so that you can continue to ask yourself those questions. And if you decide you want to apply to law school, to be in the best possible position to get in and to maximize the amount of money that you get when you get that acceptance letter. Now, when you're a third and fourth year students, my interest for you shifts into support for applications. So for example, I'll read my students' personal statements when they're applying to law school and give them feedback about what law admissions committees are looking for and how they can maximize their personal statement. I also help to guide students in regards to their letters of recommendation, how they can organize their law school search, questions that they may have, for example, about whether or not they should attempt to negotiate scholarship amounts, this kind of support that really comes up when you're actually applying. So among the objectives for PLUS are to explore the legal field, again, so you could figure out if you really want to go to law school, and if so, what kind of law you want to do, to identify resources on and off campus to help you in that journey, to build a foundation for law school applications, and again, to support you during your actual application process. And the entire PLUS program, the way that we have built it is on the appreciative model. Here at FAU, in our advising in my office, we use the appreciative advising model, and I've modeled the PLUS program after that. So to give you just a little bit more of an introduction to some of the activities we've done to pair them to some of these learning outcomes. Going back to the question of self-assessment, a lot of the stuff that we do has to do with helping you explore, helping you assess, but also develop relationships with attorney advisors and mentors, figuring out how to do informational interviews with lawyers and people in, for example, law enforcement, or for example, business law, to help you develop those relationships and build that vocabulary so you really have a sense of how to move forward in your pre-law career. I want you to get really early pre-law advising. That's another one of the reasons why we're here. We want you to know the right major for your goals, the right activities, extracurriculars, for example, for your goals as soon as possible. So you don't take unnecessary classes, so you don't graduate late, so you don't take on loans that you don't need, and so on. And I want you to network with other students who are pre-law, with key faculty and staff on campus related to law resources. And we provide events for doing all of these. So this here, you see a picture here of a social. This is a PLUS mixer where I also had my SLS pre-law class come and join. And the students were reading articles related to law school and common questions. And we had refreshments and kind of hung out together. But this is just one example of a lot of the things that we tend to do together. And this is a couple pictures from our law school visits. The one on top here is at the Shepherd Broad College of Law over at Nova Law School. And what we did that day is we actually went to the College of Law. We met with the Dean of Admissions there. We had a whole question and answer session about what it's like to apply to law school, what are common mistakes that students make when they apply, tips for maximizing their application and all of this. And then the picture at the bottom is a courthouse visit. We've done a couple of those as well. And the students really like the opportunity, especially when we visit law schools, to talk to students who are 1Ls, talk to students who are in the first year of law school, so that our FAU students can really start to see what that experience is like. And here we have an example of another one of our activities. On the left here, you see a picture of our Phi Alpha Delta So You Want to Be a Lawyer event. They actually had a couple of folks from a local law firm come and talk about what it's like to be a first-year associate. And then on the right, there's a picture here, one of our judges who actually came in and spoke to the Undergraduate Law Journal about what the practice of law is like from behind the bench. And some other sort of learning outcomes for you in the PLUS program, we want you to be able to connect to junior and senior support in your actual college. So at FAU, my office, University Advising Services, will handle your advising for your first and second year. We make sure that you get everything right with your general ed. But once you finish that general ed, you become a junior, a senior. You're actually going to work with your upper division, with your college of choice. And what's going to happen there is that at PLUS, we want you to be connected with resources as you become a junior and a senior, so you have a seamless transition. And so you learn those skills relevant to legal education. So the picture that you have here on the left is actually an induction of Phi Alpha Delta. They were bringing in some of the newer students. And we also had an attorney come in that night and speak with the students. And then the picture on the right is on campus with a statue here of Owsley, our mascot. And that was the board of 2018-19 for the Undergraduate Law Journal. That's another great opportunity that you have here when it comes to leadership. If you want to do more than simply be published in a legal topic, if you want additional leadership experience, you could actually apply to be on the board of the Undergraduate Law Journal. Then you're doing more the editing, arranging the actual events and working with faculty, for example, and talking with attorneys who come and visit the group to talk about the practice of law as well. So you could build your resume that way and network. And then here are just some additional pictures. The one on top is the Undergraduate Law Journal board from 1920. And the one that's on the bottom and on the left here is one of the training sessions for the Undergraduate Law Journal participants, the students who were writing that year. They were receiving their training on writing style for legal citations. All right, so moving forward then, once you're really starting to look at your career, you're really starting to think about career-related resources, we really start to focus at FAU and at PLUS in regards to your exploring those legal fields and getting those internships and part-time jobs, and again, supporting you through the applications. So this picture is of the jobs injustice events that I described to you a little bit earlier that's done every year. And this particular attorney was talking about the journey of how to go from college into law school and into the practice. All right, and then this is the Road to Law School panel. That's one of those activities that's also done every year. Here, what we did is we had representatives from law admissions from a couple of different institutions across the country, and also a representative in regards to Access Lex, someone who, that's an organization that helps you to sort of explore exactly how you're going to do your funding for law school. And we had a panel discussion about all of those topics. And another activity, of course, that we have every year is the Graduate and Law School Fair that I already introduced you to. So I wanted to put this up here in case you wanted to take a picture or whatever you want to do in regards to additional information. My name and our phone number and my email is on here. So I'll leave that there for you a second. So you could take a picture of that and you could follow up with me. If you have any particular questions about PLUS or about FAU in general, I could route you to the right place. Okay, I'll leave that for another couple seconds. All right, and then if you still need it, I'll go ahead and add it also to our chat. So now I'm going to stop sharing here. Thank you for your attention. Let me come back. All right. Now, does anybody have any questions at all that you either want to speak up about or that you want to put in the chat? Coffee, if you'll excuse me. Well, while you think of any questions that you may come up with, I'd like to share with you some common questions that pre-law students tend to ask me. So one of the very first questions that I'll get from students as they come in that first semester is, what should I major in if I want to go to law school? So what I always tell students is that a lot of people don't realize that law schools will actually take applicants, and they're actually very happy to have applicants from every possible discipline. So no, you do not have to be a political science or English or philosophy major to go to law school. On the contrary, law schools actually really like diversity of disciplines because they want a class that has a diversity of thought. They want students to be able to learn from each other in law school as well as from their faculty. So my advice to you is always, if you're very serious about going to law school, then your main goal in college is to prepare yourself, number one, to get in, number two, to be successful in law school. So in order to get in, the main considerations are always going to be your GPA, so your grade point average as an undergraduate, and your LSAT score, which is the law school admissions test score. So how does that go back to your major? You want to find a major that you're very passionate about, that you really enjoy, because that way you're going to do a lot better. And because you do better, because you have a higher GPA, you're going to be much more likely to actually get accepted into law school and hopefully to maximize the amount of scholarship money that you get to go. Okay. So something else you may want to think about is the idea of doing a minor or a certificate. Depending on which major you have, you may actually have elective space to do a full-on minor field of study. That's why it's called a minor. So a great example would be if you're someone who wants to get a business degree, but you also want to get that extra writing experience or learn more about, for example, law or the government, you can get that English minor. You can get a political science or, again, a professional and technical writing certificate, or you can get a business law minor. And this is just an example. We have a huge number of different kinds of minors at FAU, from the sciences to business to interdisciplinary certificates, such as studies in peace and ethnic studies and so on. Okay. So does anybody have any questions at this time? Okay. And again, if you think of anything, feel free to just put it in the chat at the bottom if you don't want to speak up. So something else that a lot of people also talk about when they first come into college and they're wondering about is it necessary for me to know from the beginning if I want to go to law school? And it's very important that you realize that you don't have to be sure that you want to go to law school in order to be involved in pre-law. You can be involved in PLUS and you could get pre-law advising even if you're not sure. One of my goals for you is for you to know, again, sooner than later, if the law is going to be right for you, so that we can get you on the right path for the rest of your time at FAU. So that, again, you're in the best position to get in, maximize your scholarship funds, and do as well as possible that first year in law school. Okay. So you don't have to stress about that. Some of the most important things for you coming in are really going to be about orienting you for your resources and getting you into the perfect major so you get great grades. Now, if you don't have any additional questions, Mitch, are there any additional questions that you've been finding in speaking with students that you'd like to see addressed?
Yeah, so one was already covered, which was the major question.
Mhm.
The other question that comes up is if FAU doesn't have a law school, should that be a consideration in doing pre-law? Do you want to ideally go to a school where you can continue directly into law school?
Gotcha, gotcha. So that's actually a really good question. And the truth is that it makes no difference whatsoever whether or not the institution that you're attending has a law school. The reason why is that the application process to attend law school is entirely independent of where you went as an undergrad. So basically, in other words, another way of putting this is a lot of people don't realize that law schools report their numbers, if you will, of their incoming classes. And by the numbers, I mean the median and the average GPA and LSAT scores of their incoming classes. They're much more concerned with maximizing those numbers and with getting a well-rounded class of people from different disciplines, very often also people of different backgrounds, so that they also have a demographically diverse class. These are the kinds of considerations that law schools have. They don't care about having a specific number of people who are in their class from their own institution. So actually, my recommendation for students is in fact that they strongly consider going to a law school that is not where they do their undergrad, so that they'll get a more diverse experience, so that they go to one type of institution for undergrad and a different type of institution for law. So for example, I went to a big public institution in Florida as an undergrad. And then for my law degree, I went to a big private institution in Florida. So my experience was very, very different from one to the other. And I really appreciated that. I think it made me a better student and it made me enjoy law school more. It was a different setting for me. I thought that was neat. So the long and short of it is, when you're thinking about the considerations of an admissions committee, that is not one of them. It isn't a priority for them to have people from their own school. Are there any other particular questions that you see often?
Maybe just some more specifics as to that later third and fourth year. What does preparation for LSATs look like?
Absolutely. So we have, so again, for those of you who don't already know, the LSAT is a law school admissions test. And it's one of the two main considerations, again, when you're applying to law schools. You know, those admissions committees really want to see you maximize that score. So it's very conventional for people who are going to be applying to law schools to take a prep course in order to get the best LSAT score that they can. Now, it is possible to do any of a variety of commercial prep courses. So, you know, there's Princeton Review and there's Kaplan, that's just to name two of them. A lot of these prep courses are very expensive, you know, upwards of $1,000. However, at FAU, we actually have our test prep office, and they do test prep for a broad variety of different exams. You know, the MCAT for medical students, of course, the LSAT for law students, you know, the GRE, you know, the GMAT, all of these different examinations. And the price for doing that is a lot less. It's hundreds of dollars less than your typical commercial prep courses. They also have a variety of workshops. So that's just one example. In terms of the guidance that I provide, when it comes to students as they're preparing for the LSAT, a lot of what they're considering is also, how do I arrange my application process? Where do I want to apply to for law school? How do I even decide that? These are some of the questions I'll help students sort of as they embark on that journey. So help them to figure out where they want to go, how they're going to arrange and organize their search, and arrange and organize their application process. It's a very complex process to apply to law school. And I'm there every step of the way when the students are trying to figure out their timeline, for example. How and when do I reach out for those letters of recommendation? Right? How do I identify my recommenders? How do I go about looking for scholarships to fund my law school experience? You know, do I want to stay in state? Do I want to go out of state? How do I figure out which law schools are strongest in which sort of fields of law for my studies, and so on? So I help students basically from the beginning to end as much as they want, with support with their process. So does anyone out there, any one of our various participants have any questions? All right. If you think of anything else, I'm going to encourage you to send me an email. Let me put it in the chat here for you again. Okay, there you go. You can go ahead and send me an email, and I'd be happy to provide for you any questions, any answers to any questions that you may have, and also any resources to help you exactly understand how PLUS works, and any other resources on campus for pre-law. So thank you all so much, and we've ended a little bit early, so I think that you could take yourselves a little bit of a break.
Thank you so much for this. This is always super informative.
Thank you so much, everybody, and best of luck to you.